Hi, I'm Max Davey and this is the sixth and final episode of Great Games for Amazing Children. Now, don't get tearful on me yet. I don't want your vision blurry because we've got quite a lot to get through. The human brain is an amazing thing, capable of fantastic feats of analysis, concentration and creativity. But none of those amazing insights or analysis are worth anything unless they lead to action, unless you can get stuff done. And that ability to get stuff done is known as executive function. We can just call it getting stuff done, that's also fine. What you need to do is to have your objective in mind, plan your set of actions as you go along, execute your plan of actions, but have the flexibility to adjust your plan as time goes on. Now, this ability is underlined, is formed of several composite abilities, so some of which I've covered, such as attention. There's also cognitive flexibility, which kind of comes under interaction, which I talked about a few videos ago. But there's also planning, organisation, and actually sometimes dexterity. So I'm going to talk about some of those today. It's a bit complicated, but I'll link to some resources in the comments. The thing you need to know is that board games help with most, but not all, of these elements. And in fact, if you go to Harvard University, which apparently is a university in the US, they have universities in the US, who knew? Is the Harvard Developing Child website has board games as the #1 recommendation for executive function. So there's something going on here. But if you look at the list I just put up, they sound like what you would do in a strategy game. And so the point is that not all board games are helpful here. It's board games that have a strategic element. Some, of course, are not strategic. I'm looking at you, Hungry Hippos. But you don't need much strategy to have this an effect on this kind of skill. Something very simple like Connect 4, which I still think is a great game, or a little bit more complex like Labyrinth, the Ravensburger one, or Hey, That's My Fish, have very good strategic choices in a very minimal rule set, and I think are helpful in this area. If you get to older children, you've got obviously the classic Ticket to Ride. I'm very fond of Takenoko, partly because it appeals very much to both genders, and obviously the Forbidden series. I'm not sure about Sky yet, but certainly Forbidden Island and Forbidden Desert, great for slightly older children, particularly because of the cooperative nature in planning and adjusting these plans. So from the planning point of view, I think any strategic game is probably helpful. But what about the executing your plans? Because in games, executing your plans is generally abstracted to points or positions or something else. But in the real world, you often need to do something physical to perform, to complete your objective. And that's not something that's particularly popular among gamers. I think that's really what dexterity games are, because I think a lot of gamers lack dexterity. And it's a harsh thing to lose a game because of something so concrete that you're just bad at. And I get that. But nonetheless, dexterity can be helped with practice, and if you like games, then perhaps that's something that you can incorporate, particularly with young children. The other point, of course, is that sometimes dexterity, when you're playing with kids and adults in the same game, some dexterity can be a bit of a leveler, a bit more of a level playing field between kids and adults. So it is something I like to incorporate. But the point is to make the feeling of competition as low as possible, and the kind of the penalty for failure feel as light as possible. So the first thing is just to have something that's really light and fun, like Lupin Louie, or its brilliantly named Star Wars version, Lupin Chewie, which is just a bit of silly fun. But even if you are the guy who kind of gets it wrong, it doesn't feel too bad. It's not like, for instance, Jenga, when it just sometimes feels a little bit humiliating to be the guy who tips over the whole tower. The other thing is to combine dexterity with other ways of winning. And I think that the granddaddy of this kind of game is Rampage. I know there's also things like Catacombs, but for me, Rampage, now known as Terror Meeple City, is for a family audience the best combination dexterity and strategy game. I absolutely love it, and we have a video up on our shortly going to have a video up on our channel Games for Families outlining how much we love it. And the final thing, if you don't want competition, is to have a cooperative dexterity game. There are not that many out there, but I do want to point out Flip Ships, which I think is a really fun game, challenging for children, but it's not difficult with the components that you have to quickly just dial down the difficulty and still have a really, really good time with a beautiful game, which is really evocative of the kind of Space Invaders style games of a few years ago, which actually kids still really enjoy. So that's dexterity and planning. And then we come to organisation. And here, I'm afraid, my friend, we run out of road. If you know gamers, do you think they're more organised and less forgetful than other people? No, me neither. What about if you are a gamer? How many times have people left a game night and then come back for their wallet, keys or phone? Quite often in my experience. So it just looks from the outside as if organisation doesn't help. Games don't help with organisation. And I think that there's a reason for that, and it's the converse of something I covered in my first video, which is scaffolding. Scaffolding is the process by which you take somebody's skill and you give them something that a little bit stretches it, that just extends it a little bit from where it is. And the point about organisation and planning and games is that actually games completely take away your need to organise yourself, because they organise you. Yes, you have to use cognitive capacity to fit in with that organisation, but the game, by its nature, will set the organisational structure, and so it doesn't scaffold us, and so we all remain forgetful and disorganised. Although I think also coming down from the kind of abstracted and fascinating gaming world to the mundane where are my keys world is a bit difficult, and I think a lot of us can't be bothered, to be honest with you. So I think we run out of road, and we've already established in this series that games are very helpful for interaction, communication, attention, mental health, planning and dexterity, which I think is more than enough to establish them as a beneficial developmental tool. If you haven't watched the other videos, please check out our channel Games for Families, that's as below, where we have a playlist which has got them all in it. I'm just going to leave you then with my 2 rules of family gaming. If it isn't fun, don't play it. And if it is fun, it's probably doing you some good. I've been Max Davey. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for the lovely comments that you've left in my previous videos. No doubt I'll crop up some other way on the Dice Tower Network or elsewhere. Do check us out at Games for Families, and I will be sort of doing whatever it is I decide to do next. Anyway, it's been a great pleasure. Thank you very much.